And the purpose of this morning's meeting is just to go through the agenda for the upcoming organizational meeting Monday. Can everybody see the agenda okay? Is it coming up on the screen okay? Okay. So we'll just kind of go through this. This meeting technically does start at 4 p.m. and then it is anticipated that the town board will not take any action at 4 p.m. other than moving into executive session relative to the employment history of particular individuals. And they will remain in executive session until about 6:30, at which time the public portion of the meeting will convene at 6:30 p.m. So a little different, and sorry, just Terry's sending me a message. A little different than normal in terms of timing, but 6:30 for the regular portion of the meeting. This is the organizational meeting, so there are a number of appointments, town supervisor, town clerk, highway superintendent appointments. Those are not anything that the town board votes on. Those are merely appointments that are made by those three elected officials. So I'll skip those for now. And there are a couple there with blanks, but that's up to the supervisor if he wants to do those at that point in time. So skipping down the next, we have a new public hearing. This public hearing is on a local law to rescind local law number 6 of 2021. Local law number 6 of 2021 was the local law that allowed us to override the tax cap. And sorry, Lindsay. Terry is trying his best and he keeps getting error messages. So
Doug, I just tried calling Terry. He didn't pick up. Can you?
I just texted you his cell phone number.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. So this would override the tax cap. Our 2022 budget is tax cap compliant, along with our 28 special districts. We're under the tax levy limit, so it is tax cap compliant. So this would rescind that local law and allow us to be fully 100% tax cap compliant. We can file the tax cap compliance certification that we're tax cap compliant and that we've rescinded the local law. Okay. So skipping ahead to resolutions. Any questions on any of that from anybody at this point?
Hey, Doug, was the county tax cap compliant?
I don't know. Do you know, Jared?
No,
I don't know.
it was not.
It was not.
I didn't think so. I was gonna say it went up like 4%.
Yeah, county was not.
Okay.
Thank you.
Skipping ahead to resolutions. The first resolution is establishing the town board meeting schedule. Traditionally, the town board meets the third Monday of each month. As you know, the month of both January and February, we have holidays the third Monday of the month. So we usually advance that the week prior, being January 10th. Traditionally, we hold a second meeting the month of January 31st, to close out 2021 fiscal year and pay our final bills. And then the February meeting advancing a week. I do need to ask the town board, and it's something for you guys to consider. A couple of the staff members and I have had conversations about that night being Valentine's Day. Maybe the town board might want to move that to Wednesday night, the 16th, but you guys can talk about that so that everybody can take their sweethearts out. So
Yeah, I am planning on blocking 1 through 4 because I think we can talk about that when we're talking about those.
Yep.
That
Okay.
makes sense.
Designation of the official holidays. These are all pretty, I think, normal stuff. Office of Depository, we use Canandaigua National Lions and NY Class. And then the newspaper and radio station, the official stuff there. So does anybody have any questions on those first 4? Okay. So the next resolution here, payment of bills. Terry, welcome. I see Terry is finally able to connect with us. The next resolution here, payment of the bills. This is and then payment of bills prior to audit. These are the traditional, basically how we run the abstracts and pay the bills. So I don't know if anybody has any questions on any of these or not at this point. No? Okay. The next resolution here, establishment of the cash accounts. This is the petty cash accounts that the town clerk and receiver of taxes uses. Gina, do you have anything you want to share on that? No. And then the next is the one that we use for Parks and Rec. That's like for the gate and the change for the gate, and that's off at Ononda. So, next resolution is our bid purchases. This allows us, and especially the highway superintendent, to piggyback on a lot of the material bids relative to Ontario County, the Monroe County bids list, the surrounding counties, to get better pricing associated with when we make purchases associated with that. Any questions on that? Yell if you have a question or I'm going too fast, because a lot of these we do every single year, so they become routine to me, but please feel free to ask questions. The next one here is for Mercy Flight. This is traditionally we make a $4,000 contribution to Mercy Flight in exchange for the services that they provide for our community, just kind of as a goodwill. That is a budgeted item each year. The next is the same for Canandaigua Emergency Squad, and essentially the next is the same for the Ontario County Historical Society. And we do have contracts with them. They do provide services for us, and that is actually attached to the agenda, attachment number 3. And those are all budgeted expenses. The next one here is our annual payment to the Canandaigua Local Development Corporation. The Canandaigua LDC is our shared economic development entity with the city and the chamber. We have a 3-year agreement that was just renewed in 21 that runs for 22, 3, and 4, which calls for us each to make a $25,000 contribution, both the city and town, to those. So to the LDC.
This is through what year? I can't read the year.
24.
24.
Through December 31st of 24.
Doug, can you zoom in a little bit?
Sure, absolutely.
I can move down here.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes, that helps.
That's better.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Okay, the next resolution here, number 13, is the town board appointments. And this is there's a series of things in here. I'll just kind of skim through these. These are the annual appointments that the town board makes. We have our 3 standing committees. In the past, we've had a 4th, an environmental committee. I think the consensus of what I heard was that maybe that some of that would be rolled into the ECB and that wouldn't be a separate, but reappointing our standard 3 committees, Finance, Planning, Public Works, and the Ordinance. There is a vacancy for a chair position of the Finance Committee that the town board will have to discuss relative to the appointment of that. And then part of this same resolution is appointing Terry, I see that's extra R's capital, sorry about that, Terry Finelli to the LDC. And then our Citizens Advisory Committees, the CIC with the chair and the citizen representatives of the CIC, the special events, and the Economic Development Committee. It's a rather long resolution. Then it also has appointments to a variety of our boards. There are some changes here. Bob Lacrosse is a current member of our planning board. His term expires the end of December 31st, 21. So this is a reappointment for him. Mark Tolbert and Scott Neal would both be new appointments to the planning board, both filling vacancies. And then there's also a alternate vacancy on the planning board. The appointment of Carl Saylor, that's a reappointment, Chip Saylor, to our Zoning Board of Appeals. His term had expired the end of last year. And then there's also a vacancy on the ZBA. There's a vacancy on the Board of Assessment Review. The reappointment of Randy Groot and David Sauter, the Parks and Trails Committee. Again, their terms expired the end of the year. This is a reappointment. Then there's 2 vacancies on the Parks Recs Trail Committee, both a youth member and a traditional position. Then the reappointment of Pat Venenzia to the ECB. Her term had expired, and then there is a vacancy there. So we do have some vacancies to fill on some of those boards. And then the last of this resolution does a lot, is our chairs. So the town board by town code is most of these boards says that in the information it says that the town board shall appoint a chairperson from a member of that board. So planning board, ZBA, ECB, Parks and Rec, agriculture. And so that's the case. The exception to that, 2 exceptions, is the ECB. Adeline obviously is a town board member, not a ECB member, so that's listed as a facilitator. And then Jean as the Register of Vital Statistics. So a lot happening in that resolution. Any questions on that? Okay, all right. Next resolution, this is our standard resolution. And really this is primarily for grant purposes that I submit with a lot of the grant stuff that we do, but assignment of certain responsibilities to the town manager. There's no changes at all in that resolution, I don't believe. Designation of professional service providers, our bond counsel, our town attorney, planning and zoning board attorney, engineering and payroll services, countersigning checks. We do require all checks more than $5,000 to be signed at least by 2 people, and the use of facsimile signature. It's kind of an old term, but our computer system generates our checks with our signature already signed on it, and so that allows for the authorization of that. Any questions up to there? Okay. Next resolution, number 18. This is approval and acknowledgement of our town policies and procedures. This is a lot happening in this resolution too, because this is what Jean and I have books in our offices call our administrative policies. And I know when the comptroller's office stops by for a friendly visit, they always ask to see the administrative policies. These are all of the different things on how we operate. The budget development policy, all the way down every one of these to year-end policy. I think that's the last of it. So this is the annual readoption of all of those policies and acknowledgement of all those. So those are all listed on our website. There's a lot of information in each of those policies. Some of those policies are 20 pages long, and some of those policies are a page long. So it just varies. But
How often are they reviewed?
each year, annually. So any questions on any of that? Okay. Next resolution, number 19 here, the temporary assignment of justices in the 7th Judicial District. This again is an annual appointment by the board at the time for our courts to be able to work in the 7th Judicial, or our 2 town justices, I should say, to work in the 7th Judicial District as needed. The issuance of handicap parking and the appointment of let me start separate, I'm sorry. The handicap parking permit issuing agent. Each year, the town board designates the town clerk and the deputy clerks to issue those handicap parking permits. The next one is under civil service law and the state justice law. The justices get to appoint a town court clerk, or I should say the town board gets to appoint a town court clerk with the consent of the justices, to be technically accurate. So that's what this resolution does. And we do have an email from Justice Prell asking for Kristen to be reappointed as the court clerk. The next resolution, number 22, is the adoption of the 2022 fee schedule. Again, that's attached to the agenda. That is all of our fees that we charge for any number of different things, and that's pretty lengthy.
And Doug, the only changes that were given to me were in the water.
Yes. So these are, the fee schedule is, these are like, for instance, what we charge for the rentals for the, let me zoom in on this for a little bit, make it a little easier for you guys. These are all of like the cabin rentals, town resident, non-resident rates, the parking fees, all the stuff relative to parks. Then we get into the development office. These are all the permitting fees, everything that gets charged for new applications coming in. And that's done by zoning district. Let me keep scrolling here. The ones in yellow are the proposed changes by the water superintendent. So these are the water department ones. So there are some proposed increases here, going from 925 to 975 for the meters. And I believe that is due to increased cost in the supplies, the materials, and also the change to cellular endpoint. So a lot of that relates to the water meters, the directional drilling, the cost again going up, and that's a pass-through essentially cost. The hydrant meter rental rate going up again, essentially pass-through cost associated with that to cover the cost of the water that is used. Water charges to East Bloomfield. Some of these ones relating to water charges, some of the reason for these increases is also because the cost that we pay to the city of Canandaigua to receive the water has increased per the water agreement that all of the water purveyors have. And the municipalities, I believe there are, I want to say 14, but that might not be right, that buy water from the city of Canandaigua. And there's an agreement with the city of Canandaigua, and it's based on the consumption from the prior year. So when there's a wet year and people use less water, the water rate goes up. When it's dry and people use more water, the water rate goes down, essentially. So that's all these fees. And then that agreement has been in place for, I believe, about 15 years. Jared, that's definitely one that needs to be on our radar to go
Yeah,
back
to
and
look at that,
relook at. Transfer station, this is the cost associated with the tickets. Again, there are some modifications that are being proposed here relative to some of the larger C and D type stuff in the number of tickets that are required for those by Caitlin and Jim. So, and then town clerk's office fees, the dog license peddling, and there's no changes proposed with any of that. So, all right, that's a lot. Sorry. Any questions on any of that? Does anybody? Okay. So that's the fee schedule one. We did pass 2 resolutions late 2021. Just wanted to have it on the record for this town board, since we do have a new town board, appointing Mary Beer as our health officer, and also Andy Griffith as our representative, citizen representative to the LDC. That's that resolution. The next resolution is the authorization to execute the town planning board and zoning board attorney with our town attorney, Chris Nadler. The next resolution is the authorization for the 284 agreement, the expenditure of the 22 highway budget expenditures. Just as a quick reminder, essentially this $1.3 million, that's the budgeted amount when we adopted the 22 budget. And basically the Canandaigua Farmington Town Line Road, micro paving of Brickyard Road, and the repairs, those sorts of things. The 284 agreement is the document that the town board, or the agreement that the town board makes with the highway superintendent to confirm that that is the work that the town board is authorizing the expenditures of those roads. And the highway superintendent, of course, recommends those based on his knowledge and his experience in the conditions of those roads. So that 284 agreement, what happens with that is then once the resolution gets approved, then the town board all the town board members would sign off, as well as the highway superintendent executing that agreement, that 284 agreement, and then that becomes the official highway, agreement that is designated under New York State highway law. So any questions on any of that? All right. The next resolution is our annual contract control services agreement with the county for dog control services. So this would allow us to execute that agreement that is in place with them, and then that is a budgeted amount. The next is essentially the same thing. It's the enhanced law enforcement contract that we have with the county sheriff's department for enhanced law enforcement services that we pay to the county, and this would allow us to execute that agreement. There's one more, it must be a little bit later, relative to the county for court security, but we'll come to that in a second, I guess. The next one is acknowledging Terrence Robinson and thanking him for his years of service to the Zoning Board of Appeals. And then the same with our town assessor, who will be leaving us on January 19th, thanking her for her years of service to the town of Canandaigua. Then here's the next resolution I was talking about, the court security. So we contract with the sheriff's department to provide security for our town of Canandaigua court. So any questions on any of those before I move on? No. Okay. Resolution number 31 is the acceptance of the monthly financial reports. You'll find those always attached to the agenda. That's every single month we do that, where we put the budget report and where each individual account line is attached. You can also see overtime reports associated with part of that reporting system. The budget transfers, Kate, you want to jump in there? I think there was one small one?
I think the only one we have this month was for the end of the year payroll. We always have a few cents here and there with the end of the year payroll. So there were some budget transfers for those payroll amounts, just to make sure that everything, and those all came out of the contingency line.
So you can see here's the adjustment numbers right here, 6 cents, 8 cents, 2 cents. This one was 3,000. That was the contingency
That was the
that's
total
coming
of
out.
transfer.
Yeah. And then planning board secretary, and then waste and recycling. So
Yeah.
then looks like the medical one, right? The $300. So okay, any questions on that? The next one is the ECB's annual report. So the town board acknowledging and accepting the ECB's annual report, and then we forward that off to the New York State DEC as is required in the town code. The next resolution is our adoption of our local law to rescind the tax cap. This relates to the public hearing that we talked about earlier in the agenda. The next resolution, and keep in mind the organizational, let me just use, it feels like a lot of resolutions are in a lot of different categories, and they are. You know, the rest of the entire year, we categorize these: finance, planning, public works, ordinance. The organizational meeting has so many of these one-time each year type things that it's hard for us to categorize these. And so they're a little bit kind of back and forth all over the place only in this organizational meeting. This one is thanking Ryan Stachek for his years of service to the Canandaigua Planning Board. He's resigned from the Planning Board. Next resolution is the appointment of the town supervisor officially to the Canandaigua Lake Watershed Council, representing the town of Canandaigua. Next resolution is the appointment. This was a budgeted thing, and we had previously talked about this. Appointment of Rebecca Doyle as full-time deputy clerk, and the budget adjustment required for that. Any questions on any of that? Okay. The next resolution is the hourly rates from the 2022 adopted budget for each of our hourly employees in the categories. You see the initials are the individual employees and then their titles. And obviously a lot of these are all per the union agreement. Next resolution number 39 is actually, Jean, why don't you, this is you.
There we go. Yes, thank you. Every year we have a maintenance agreement with Robert Kistler Services. They are actually the only company in the area that services these types of ventilation systems, especially when we went to replace the system a few years ago. They were the only one that was able even to bid on it. So unfortunately, they're kind of like the only person that only company in the area that can do this agreement. I did try to contact 2 other local individuals, I think Isaac and Interstate, but they never quoted, they never called back, they never came. So I need to get this agreement in place to keep our ventilation system running well and keeping our records in a safe condition.
So just so everybody understands, that has nothing to do with like the HVAC system in the rest of the town hall. That is just the vault that is in Jean's office.
Correct.
That is controlled. The humidity and the air and everything in the vault is controlled because those are all the town records and documents going back about 200 years almost. So.
Yes.
Hey guys, I gotta jump off, so I will catch you guys later.
All right, thanks, Jared.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you.
The next resolution here is the authorization for the town assessor to require a renewal application. There was a change relative to the executive orders that the governor just did relative to the exemptions. And so many of the municipalities I know are doing this quickly here. But she's been working on those exemptions with those municipalities and with the residents rather, and it allows her to move forward with that. The next resolution is a scheduling of a public hearing to consider a revised cost estimate for improvements relative to the Canandaigua-Farmington Water District. Where do we start with this one? We have another meeting today with the town of Farmington relative to this. Canandaigua-Farmington Water District is administered by the town of Farmington. That serves basically the entire north half of the town of Canandaigua. There's been a project in the works to replace the water tank on Brickyard Road at a cost of about $9 million. It's been in that plan has been in place for 4 or 5 years now. It's been working through that. The town of Farmington has in leading that. They did bids. The bids came in $4 million over what they were expected at nearly $13.5 million. And so now what the town of Farmington, I believe, would like to do is move forward with that at the higher cost and bond, the excess amount. I think we as the town of Canandaigua collectively have some questions. And so I know we have a kind of meeting today to discuss that a little bit more. This resolution sets a public hearing and makes it public knowledge of what's going on. And then allows the public to comment at a scheduled public meeting to be held on January 31st, 2022 at 6 o'clock at the town hall. And then, we'll see as we kind of move forward, but that does carry, if that were to move forward right now by my cost estimates and projections, that would mean between a 30 to a 50% tax increase for the residents of the town of Canandaigua that reside are users of the Canandaigua-Farmington Water District. So that one is a giant red flag. So.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
The next couple of resolutions here are our standard sureties. So this is letter credit acceptance for Apogee Development. This is our new Canandaigua Crossing project on 332. The next one is the soil and erosion control sediment surety for 4655 County Road 16. For 3365 State Route 364, and also the soil and erosion control for 3365 State Route 364, and then a surety for 4210 County Road 16. And that concludes the resolutions. So, and then there will be another executive session requested at the end of the meeting relative to the employment history of a particular individual. So that is the agenda. Anybody have any questions? Went through that pretty fast for 50 resolutions, so that's
Hopefully we can block some of these on Monday.
yeah. And then some of them, the town board will need to have some conversation about some of those blanks that are on the agenda in terms of filling some of those. So, go ahead. I'm sorry, Terry.
You don't read those, do you? At the meeting?
No, we don't read the resolutions. Traditionally, what has happened in the past is the town supervisor has read the title of the resolution, and then there's been a motion or a second. Any other questions?
Nope.
I'll just remind everybody, the 2022 town board, now, since this will be the first meeting of that board, so you have the town supervisor, Jared Simpson, you have town board member Terry Finelli, town board member Gary Davis, town board member Adeline Cook-Rudolph, and then we do have a vacancy on the town board that the town board could choose to fill that vacancy at any time they wish. That would be a majority vote of the town board to fill that vacancy. I say anytime they wish, but it would have to be during a public meeting. So that, the meetings are scheduled currently right now, as you saw on the agenda, the third Monday of every month, with the exception of January 10th, January 31st, and February 14th per the agenda. The town board, 2 town board members or the town supervisor could call a special meeting at any time also. Anyway. Anything else? Anybody else? Thank you guys. Thank you everybody for taking the time to go through it. Thank you guys for coming in downstairs too. Appreciate it. Your interest.
Have a good day.
All right. Thanks everybody. Take care.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.